I've been having fun with Claude Code. So a couple months ago, I started with zero technical experience. And let's be honest, I probably still have close to zero technical experience. But the amazing thing that I discovered is that you don't need any. And it completely changed how I run my business. I was able to build my own landing page, something that would have cost me thousands of dollars to outsource or even taken me days to figure out. And I did it in less than an hour. And just take a look at everything here. Nothing too complex, but if I were to figure this out on my own, it would look horrific. So in this video, I'm gonna break everything down for people just like me, just a clear, practical introduction to Claude Code, how to set it up, and how to actually use it. Here's what we're covering: what Claude Code is, and how it's different from the Claude chat that you might already know, how to install it step by step, how to set up your first project properly, and then we're gonna build a real front-end design together from scratch. Before we touch anything, let me explain 3 things, because if you don't understand these tools, setup won't make sense. First is Claude.ai. You might already use this. It's just a chat website, like texting an AI tool like ChatGPT. You might ask it questions, it answers. Simple. Claude.ai now also has features like co-work and code built in. Think of it like Google Doc with an AI sitting next to you, which is useful but has its limitations. Claude.ai only sees what you paste into the chat. If you're working on a real project, multiple files, you'd be copying and pasting constantly, and it gets messy fast. The second thing is VS Code, which stands for Visual Studio Code, and it's a GUI or a graphical user interface application. It's basically a code editor built in with a visual interface. You interact with it through windows, menus, tabs, buttons, and a file explorer sidebar, rather than purely through text commands. And don't worry, we will be using this later in this video when we go through the demo. Third, Claude Code. This is the magic piece. Claude Code is the extension you add to VS Code that brings Claude's AI directly into your project. Here's why this matters. When you use Claude.ai in the browser, Claude can suggest code. When you use Claude Code and VS Code, Claude can actually write, edit, and run code directly inside your files. There's no need for any copy and pasting, no switching tabs. Claude sees your entire project, every file, and it's all connected. It's the difference between showing a mechanic a photo of your engine versus letting them open the hood. It's true that you can access local files with Claude Cowork, but VS Code with Claude Code gives non-technical users far more control, customization, and power over their automations than Cowork's limited GUI, without actually needing to write any code themselves. All right, let's get everything installed. This part is straightforward, so just follow along. You're gonna go to code.visualstudio.com and download the version for your operating system, whether it's Mac, Windows, Linux. Install like any other app. Once it's open, VS Code might look a little intimidating at first. Don't worry, we're only going to use a small part of it today. I only want you to focus on 2 tabs, which if you look over to the left-hand side, you'll see this Explorer tab. And this is where we're gonna access our local files. The other tab I want you to know is this Extension tab. This is where we're gonna find Claude Code and install the correct one. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna type in Claude Code for VS. I already have it installed, but you want the one that is from Anthropic. It's got almost 6 million downloads, 4 stars. Anthropic is the company that made Claude, so we can trust that this is legit. But watch out, there are other extensions with similar names. Always check the publisher, make sure it says Anthropic. Don't install random third-party extensions when it comes to tools that touch your projects. The install button should be right here, so go ahead and click it and install it. Once it's installed, you'll see Claude appear on your sidebar. You'll need to sign in with your Anthropic account or create one if you don't already have one. There are 3 tiers to the Claude pricing plan. You'll need the basic one if you want access to Claude Code, and it'll probably run you around $20 a month. But the return on investment is astronomical. So absolutely do not let that stop you from using this tool. Once your account is created, come back to VS Code and you should see an icon on the top right to open Claude. So go ahead and click that. You're now going to see the chat window. I'm going to exit out of this, but when you start Claude Code, you may already know the few models like Sonnet or Opus, and you can toggle through those by hitting the slash button here. Hover over to switch model where you can see Sonnet, Haiku, Opus. You don't need to understand each completely yet, but just know that Sonnet is for faster, cheaper, and is great for everyday tasks, which is what you'll want to use most of the time. Opus is their most powerful model, so just save it for the most complex work. You'll get a better understanding of what you want to use once you play with the tool a little bit more. But if you don't know, just use Sonnet for now, and you can always change the model to Opus if you don't like the results. Just remember, it takes a little bit more time and it costs a little bit more. Now we're going to create our first project by creating a folder. So let's hover over to the Explorer tab again, click Open Folder. I want to keep it in my desktop, so I'm going to open that and then hit New Folder. Title it whatever you want. I'm going with YouTube Demo. Hit create, hit open. So now you see YouTube demo on the left side here. What this means is Claude will only have access to files in this folder locally on your PC or your server, so you don't have to worry about Claude having access to other files or documents that may contain sensitive information. Now here's something that most beginners will skip, and it makes a huge difference. We're not going to be using it for today's demo, but I want you to understand what it is, and that is Claude.md. So Claude has no memory between sessions. Every time you open a new conversation, it forgets everything about your project, who you are, what you're building, and what rules to follow. Claude.md solves this. It's a plain text file that lives locally in your project folder. You just write it once, and every time Claude opens your project, it reads this file first. Think of it like leaving a sticky note for a new assistant before their first day. Instead of explaining your project from scratch every session, you write it down once and Claude will always know. To create this file, just go ahead and click in your file on this plus sign, type in all caps Claude.md lowercase, exactly like that. Hit enter, and this is where you would prompt Claude. Here's what to put in it. Think of what you would put in an SOP for a new person joining the team on day one. I don't want to dive too deep into this. Some things that you want to include would be what the project is, like, for example, this is a landing page for my newsletter. You also would want to include some rules. For example, please keep the design very minimal, and you can even include some preferences like only use HTML or yada yada, whatever it is. For the most part, I've had Claude create this for me while just giving a brain dump of the idea or the structure that I wanted. But if you run a business and you already have an SOP or standard operating procedure, it's going to be a lot easier for you. You can just plug it right in and have Claude optimize it for you. One thing to keep in mind, don't go overboard with this file. Claude has a context window. Basically, a short-term memory limit. If your Claude.md is massive, it eats into the space Claude has to actually think about the project, so keep it focused and clear. If you're still with me, you now have Claude Code installed and your first project set up. That's more than what most people ever do. Next, we're getting into the real action. So hover over to the top right, hit the orange Claude icon. That's going to open this chat window. But before we build anything, let me show you a couple of key features inside Claude Code that you'll use constantly. The very first underlooked tool or function that I think people don't utilize enough is plan mode. So when you go down here and you see ask before edits, if you click through, you'll toggle through edit automatically and then plan mode. Plan mode is exactly what it sounds like. Before Claude touches a single file, it thinks through what it's going to do and shows you the plan first. This is huge for beginners and honestly for everyone, because you can review what Claude is about to do before it actually does it. It will ask you to clarify things along the way and ask you if it needs any additional information. It's good to remember to always start complex tasks in plan mode. It helps you catch misunderstandings early and will make the building process a lot easier. By default, Claude will ask your permission before editing any file. This is a safety feature and it's a good one. As you get more comfortable, you can turn on bypass permissions in the settings. I'm gonna show you how. So we're gonna hover to the bottom left where you see the gear icon, open it up and then hit settings. Then you're gonna type in bypass. Right under here, I already have it turned on. You'll see Claude Code allow dangerously skip permissions. This lets Claude Code work faster without stopping to ask every time. But when you're starting out, leave it on and review every change because you want to try to understand how this process works before you dive into using this setting. Once you're there, you should see that setting. It should look like this and the text box should glow red. All right, this is what you've been waiting for. We're going to build a real front-end design together, a landing page for a newsletter. So before we get started, I'm going to exit out of this. I'm going to make sure we're in plan mode. See if I can move this over here. There you go. I'm going to exit out of this welcome to. So remember, I have no coding experience. I'm just going to tell Claude what to do. The first thing we need to do is add a skill.md. Think of skills like pre-built instruction sets that make Claude better at specific tasks. Imagine a recipe you give to a chef. It tells Claude Code exactly how to do a specific task step by step. Just like how a recipe ensures that the dish turns out the same every time, a skill.md ensures Claude follows the same proven process whenever it tackles the same type of job. And there's a GitHub repository maintained by Anthropic that has a growing library of these skills. GitHub is basically a place where developers store and share code publicly. You don't need to understand it deeply, you just need to know how to grab what we need from it. The skill we want is called a front-end design skill. It gives Claude a structured approach to building visual websites and their components. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna open up another tab, type in GitHub Anthropic skills. This is Anthropic's official repository. So we're going to open it up and you're going to be able to access all their skills. You see in the top left, Anthropic skills. So go down and when you see the folder that has skills, we're going to open that. And we're just going to look on this side for front-end design. We can see that here. Open skills.md. I'm just go ahead and copy this URL. Then we're going to go back to VS Code and I'm going to type in, or I'm going to say, I want you to create a skill, period. Here's a link to the GitHub repository of that skill. Please create it. Then I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And just let it cook. So you can see in real time what it's doing. It's thinking. Now it's actually fetching the web, grabbing the content that it needs. So plan mode is very helpful. So while it does its thing, I'm gonna go ahead and edit some video and come back when it's done. So now that it's done, it's gonna ask you if you wanna auto accept everything, but what I suggest is just review the plan. So just go quickly look through it. This is the markdown prompt that's gonna be created as your skill MD. So I'm gonna go back and go ahead and accept this. And right now I have it as edit automatically, but I've used this plenty of times before. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch it to bypass permissions mode and let it do its thing. So now that it's done, I wanted to point out something that I don't want you to completely worried about, but I wanted to introduce a topic. So you see this tilde here. Whenever you see a tilde slash .claude, that means it's going to be globally installed into your project. So imagine you have a folder, and within that folder you have other subfolders. So those subfolders can have skills, different projects, whatever. But when you have a tilde in front of that, that means it's going to be installed globally in the main folder. If that didn't make sense, don't worry about it. I will go over that more deeply in another video. Let me know if you want me to do that down in the comments below. But as you see here, it's now installed. I am now going to switch back to plan mode. You can go ahead and clear this conversation so you have a fresh context window. One thing you do want to understand is if the chat is too long, Claude's going to have to read that whole conversation before it gets to your question or your instruction. So it's good to clear your conversation if you're starting something new, or go ahead and just start a new chat window if you want to save the previous conversation. So I'm going to clear the conversation, switch it back to plan mode, and I'm going to give Claude some instructions. Build a clean, minimal landing page for a newsletter. Include a headline, a short description, and an email sign-up form. Here is a screenshot of some inspiration for design, period. So I'm gonna go to a website called godly.websites to look for some inspiration, screenshot which one I like, paste it here, and see what it does. So I have a new tab open. I'm gonna type in godly.website. Just gonna scroll and look around, look for something simple. I kind of like this one, so I'm just gonna go with that. There's better ways of doing this, but for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna screenshot it. I wanna get it to stop moving. Can you guys stop? Just visit it. Okay, so I actually visited the page. So let's just go ahead and screenshot this. It wasn't even the whole window, but let's see what it can do. It kind of does something different every time. That's why it's so important to have a claude.md file so you can create a more consistent environment for this, for your builds. So I'll go ahead and paste that there. Then I'm gonna let it run, and I'm gonna go edit some more video. So I wanted to show this part because this is how you're interacting with your AI, like as if it was a coworker. So it's gonna come back to you and say, what is the newsletter about, right? So let's see, it says tech, AI, finance, design, personal brand, other, and you can submit your own answer. So I'm just gonna go with tech and AI and just gonna keep asking questions. I'm just going ahead and just click the first one, submit answer, and just let it keep cooking. And it's gonna reach out to you if it needs a little bit more information or clarification. What's the newsletter's name? The Chiva report. So I don't want to bore you guys with the rest of the questions that's going to ask because you guys get the point. All right, now that it's done cooking up everything, it's given us a plan. So go ahead and review that. Looks good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and accept. And then again, for me, I just go straight to bypass permissions because I've used this a few times already. I know what it's going to do. All right, now that it's done, you're going to see on the left-hand side, you have a new asset called index.html. So we're going to go ahead and right-click this and hit open with live server so we can view it locally. All right, so this is it. And to be honest, it looks pretty damn good. I mean, it didn't have the designs on the edges, but with just a one-shot prompt and a screenshot, I'd say that's pretty good. Like even this bubble here has some animation, some text, which works. Yeah, some about, which is all clickable. That's pretty good for one shot. So this is the original. And let me go back to what it created. So this to this, I'd say it's pretty close. You know, wasn't able to get all the images on the edges, but I didn't screenshot the whole page, so it may not have gotten it. Especially when you scroll up or down, all the animations kind of disappear. But if you just look at this portion of it, it looks pretty similar. Let's go back to what it created. Yeah, it looks pretty similar. And this is where you would go back and forth with the AI. You can continue to screenshot sections and say, I don't like this. Please move this more to the center. Please change this color. Please change this text. And if you want to add images or your logo, you can ask the AI on how to do that, and it'll walk you through that process. It's also important to note that this isn't production ready. You wouldn't put this live tomorrow without testing it and refining it and doing all the security checks. But what it shows you is the capability, and honestly, the speed at which you can iterate is what changes everything. The real magic happens when you start giving Claude feedback on what is built, watching it revise it in real time. That's where the hours start disappearing and the cost savings start to build. I want to remind you, I have zero coding experience. I use one chat window. That's Claude Code. And this is just a foundation. We haven't even touched what it can do for full web apps, automations, or running custom code for your business. Make sure you subscribe if you want to learn more about Claude Code. And drop a comment below. I want to know what's the first thing you would want to build with Claude Code. I read everything, and your answers actually help me decide what to cover next. Again, thank you for your time. I'll see you guys in the next one.